What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Chromecast. This episode is part of a series that we're doing in partnership with Logitech that is all about education and technology in the classroom. As part of this awesome partnership, we're giving away 30 Logitech Chrome packs to one lucky winner to outfit their classroom with the best tools to enhance their students' Chromebook experience. These packs include a headset, a wireless keyboard and mouse, an HD webcam, a Snowball Ice USB microphone, and a Logi pen if the winner's classroom has USI Chromebooks. And all of this comes in a kid-approved Herschel backpack. This giveaway is open to all currently employed K-12 school or district level faculty, IT staff, and leadership, and is running for a limited time. So check the link in the show notes if you want to learn more. I'm obviously super excited about this giveaway, but now on to our guest for this episode. Today we have an interview with Gaurav Bradoo, who is a product lead for education at Logitech. We had a really fun chat about product development at Logitech and the extensive process that they went through to build the Logi Pen USI stylus. So without any further ado, here's my interview with Gaurav. Alrighty, thanks so much, Gaurav, for taking the time to join us on the Chromecast. This is going to be a fun chat, and we're excited to have you. So thanks for taking some time to join us.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. And I'm excited to talk to you guys. I like watch all your stuff, and I'll try and tune in. So it's exciting to be here.
Love it. We're always flattered when we're talking with folks, and they're like, "Oh, I actually listen to your stuff and read your articles," and we're like, "Oh, that's amazing. Thank you." We're just some Kentucky guys over here writing about Chromebooks, and it's awesome that people pay attention. So thank you. So we were chatting a little bit before we got rolling here about a little bit of what you do at Logitech. So for those listening, our audience is obviously pretty consumer focused in general, but we do have a lot of folks that are in, IT or educators. And, this partnership with Logitech and this series that we're doing is really exciting for us because this is kind of an area that we, want to focus on a little bit more. And, chats like this are really fun for us to, honestly, to educate ourselves a little bit too, because we're not super plugged in with the whole education market. So I said this in one of our other interviews. I might ask some dumb questions here and there because I'm just trying to learn as we're going here. So tell folks a little bit about what you do.
I'm responsible for product management and the portfolio strategy for our team in Logitech that's looking at education. And specifically looking at how we can help learners and educators. And, our team's purpose is to sort of ignite the full potential of every learner through, technology. And sort of we recognize that the world has moved towards using more technology in the construct of learning. And we're trying to figure out what the right thing to do there and how we can help sort of make that a more interesting, engaging, exciting experience for learners and help teachers with their process and flow to teach with technology.
Yeah, and obviously, during the pandemic, especially, there was a lot of just trying to figure out how all of this was going to work. What tools do we have for students? What tools do educators have through this process? In Chromebooks, obviously, and Chrome OS and cloud computing was right there to kind of, have that foundation for some of this stuff to happen. And obviously, Chrome OS and Google have been investing heavily in education for a while. We've been following along with it, and like I said, we're not super plugged in with it, but we see what Google's doing, and that in enterprise and in some of these areas that they've really put some effort into. So it's interesting, obviously, to see a company like Logitech who create so many awesome products. I mean, we've been using the K580 keyboard and the M355 mouse, and those products. I was actually going back and looking. We were at the Google event in 2019, October of 2019, and we're sitting there filming, and we're like, "Is that the Logitech keyboard and mouse that we were?" saw that was rumored, and we're over there filming it, and everybody's like, why are you all filming this? And we're like, this is the keyboard and mouse, because finally it was a keyframe that was Chrome OS. For so long we were using, Logitech Windows keyboards and just dealing with it. And so it's cool, obviously, to see the kind of portfolio grow, and especially this works with Chromebook. Certification standard that is now out there that Google has rolled out, and you all were one of the partners early on with that. That's a fairly comprehensive like platform that you all have now. 50 plus products that are works with Chromebook.
I believe so, and in fact, I think especially as you mentioned during the pandemic, as there was a boom, I think our team in particular we sort of rallied around really quickly and sort of before we even started doing new product development, it was like, hey, how do we make sure that we have the right products, the right experiences that go with these Chromebooks that are getting deployed en masse in this sort of world that isn't changed fundamentally? And it's accelerated some of the things. It wasn't fundamentally new. It was stuff that was happening, but it suddenly was an acceleration that was sort of 0 to 60 in like 0.1 second. Like it was just suddenly the world was like, everyone's at home. We need computers. So we on our part were trying to say, right, what are the best set of tools that we can sort of attach and sort of deploy really well within these constructs? And yeah, the kudos to the Google team and our internal teams in terms of getting this our products lined up, and they were really helpful in making sure that we were able to get explain the rules of the program, work through the certification side, just so that we could solve the problems that people were having in the field. As opposed to just it being a static experience where it's a wall, and so we really rallied around, and we wanted to make this as big and as fast as possible. So we sort of had our entire suite of products that we went through and got through the WWCB works with Chromebook certification. And we were grateful to be able to get those out into the world and hopefully help folks early on.
Yeah, because there were so many folks that, as you said, there was just that immediate need. There was hey, I have to now work from home. I have a kid at home that needs a device. Like, we're just going to go buy something. And the great thing about Chrome OS is that in general, a lot of the time, you just plug stuff in and it normally works for the most part. But having that reassurance, having that sticker on the box, or that that labeling on the box that says, hey, we've tested this and verified this, that goes a little bit farther to help folks as they're already stressed about some other stuff. Then they're trying to figure out their peripherals and getting a keyboard and mouse that works, and having a keyboard that actually has a Chrome OS layout on it, and these sorts of things. So like, what has that product development process been like for you all? Like, when we as we now kind of transition to education, that is specifically. So when you all have been thinking about developing products for the classroom to make students successful, because obviously the Chromebook is the hub. And there's things that we can do to enhance that experience and to make students even more successful. So what is that process for you all? Like, how are you all thinking about developing products for the classroom?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. I think it sort of starts even, and I have this view where even before we started developing, I think we needed to sort of come up with a frame of, what factors should we consider even in the existing product lines that we had, which ended up being the framing for the future products. But we ended up looking at things like appropriateness for age, durability. Is the product going to be used in a personal versus a group interaction? What's the context of use for this product? Is it meant to be used primarily at home, given that pandemic situation, or will this come back and live in a classroom, or will this live in a lab setting? And simple examples there that, a wired keyboard might be fundamentally better for a lab setting, so that you don't have sort of keyboards moving, left and right, versus wireless is great, on a one-off in a desktop scenario, like one-to-one scenario. Whether the product was designed for a learner and would really help maximize kids' usage versus educators, and what they need to sort of be able to engage and do more with those experiences. And then lastly, what are the nuances in the products that we need to consider, given it lives in these three different contexts. So that's, I think, just like the fundamental underlay for how we go about thinking about any product, regardless of what we do. And then specifically, we ended up launching and releasing into the world Logitech Pen, which is a USI stylus for Chromebooks, and it was our first foray into really taking this and saying, let's design for the classroom, for students in that setting, a product that was like ground up for that purpose. And so with that, we went to the drawing board in some ways. We've had a successful product on the iPad ecosystem in the form of Logitech Crayon, but the Chromebook is deployed differently. You have convertible forms for the Chromebook. There are different use cases. You have non-touchscreen versus touchscreen Chromebooks. Even within the touchscreen world, it was, you have the convertible versus tablets. In fact, based on one of your video recommendations, I've got the Duet 5 that I've been playing and sort of trying. And so it was really going and saying, okay, if we're starting with kids using Chromebooks, how do we think about this? How do we go about this? And we started all the way from the early stages, working with educators and learners in the earliest stages of development, all the way throughout, to refine the product experience, to think about the different pieces. So, we talk about this in the form of like, we've designed this with students and educators for students and educators. So, everything early on where we took 3D printed prototypes before the object even existed. We took 3D printed prototypes of just different hand grips, different lengths of pens, different sizes, different thicknesses, where the soft parts would be, where the firm hard parts would be, and sort of give this to over 90 students and just figure out what was comfortable, what was something that they would engage with. Even color material strategy, we sort of worked through that and said, all right, yellow is an interesting color. It sort of harkens to the pencil, and that's what some of the students themselves said, as well as based on student surveys in terms of like what was easy to be visible, what was easy to find, and then we even went into ergonomics research with experts in the field to help validate and make sure that we were doing things that were ergonomic. And then finally, even work with the folks that are deploying the products and think about packaging design, think about durability, think about suitability for the classroom environment. So it was pretty extensive from conception of the product and early sort of sketches all the way through to 3D printed prototypes to final products and making sure that we were doing this authentically and doing this well.
And was the pen process kind of started through the pandemic, or was this something that you all were working on?
No, this actually
prior?
started through the pandemic. Great question. Yeah, we were, this is where, as we were, partnering with Google, we independently were seeing that this was a big thing, and Google was telling us that USI was a big push. USI enabled, tablets and Chromebooks was a big push. And there was something that, we could do, and we collectively sort of we said, yeah, this is a space we've done this before. We know how to solve this class of product, and we believe it's a really important space for us to start with. Like, kids as early as 5 are starting to use these things, and we wanted to make sure that as they're learning handwriting, and it's just because we've moved to a keyboard based product or touchscreens, etc. These skills are still super relevant, right? Like, they're learning how to write, they're learning how to do this. And in a digital world, we wanted to provide that experience and make sure that as Chromebooks were getting deployed really seriously and are continuing to getting deployed, how do we make sure that they have the best experience with this form of handwriting or annotation that they need to do?
Yeah, are there is there any sort of button? Is there a button on the side of the pen? We have one floating around. I think it's over by Robbie's desk. I haven't. I need to get it out and mess with it. Is there a button on the side?
Nope. In fact, that was one of the big things that we sort of took out from the experience as we were looking at it. Even we didn't even want a power button. So when we went through this, we said, hey, this needs to be as plug and play as possible. So starting with that sense of the USI standard, where it's like, yeah, that enables that, right? Like, a teacher can have a different Chromebook, a student can have a different Chromebooks, you can have different Chromebooks in the class, but that USI standard enables a person to use the same pen and move across Chromebooks in such a seamless way. So for me, that was a big part in the development where I was like, yeah, it needs to be this simple. If we can't beat pen and paper, we've sort of lost. Like the transition isn't going to be as simple. So, even things like, as I mentioned, that grip, we sort of spent hours, months, weeks trying to make sure that we can get this grip as close to the front of the pen as possible, because we saw that kids were holding this in completely different ways. Some would hold it all the way front, some would hold it to the back. And so it was a core part for us to be like, yeah, we don't want to get in the way of handwriting. We don't want to get in the way of this. How do we make this successful? And so, we came up with this unique shape called, we call it trilobe, that allows you to sort of grip this in any way, so you can do that, you can do this, you can hold it up front, you can move it to the back. And we extended the silicone part of the product experience so that you could do it as close to the tip as possible, or as far back as it made sense. And then even the weight distribution and balance, like it's crazy how much, like the details that we have to go through, and it's the right thing to do. As kids test, they're like, this one doesn't feel right. We're like, okay, how do we lay out the components internally to make that happen? So that was on the children's side. But then as we sort of moved and said, great, now this is going to live in a classroom, we've suddenly added a product that now needs, has batteries, needs things to be charged. And so one of the first things that we were like, hey, we want this to be charged using the standard Chromebook charger, which is USB-C. And you don't need to sort of think about this anymore. You don't need to carry any additional chargers. You don't need to deal with any other batteries. And we also wanted to make sure that the battery life was really large, because if a kid's using this, we don't want them to suddenly have to think about charging. So we designed this so that it has like 20 days of battery life up to that, in depending on settings. And, we had internal conversations where we were like, what's the right amount of time that you claim that battery life with? So then the team was like, we need to account for things like moving in the bags, like them going to school, coming back. So we felt comfortable with the up to 15 to 20 days timeline. Then after that, we were like, all right, what if someone's not charged it at all? And you now need to get into this. This is where, again, the Chromebook stylus and the Chromebook approach was great, where you plug it in for less than 30 seconds and you get 30 minutes. You plug it in for 30 seconds, you get 30 minutes of charge, and you can go about your lesson. So it was very, a combination of those little things that we've realized and, become bigger in the day-to-day of children and educators using this. And same thing, as I said, with educators, they can go and sort of mimic that experience of like walking up to a Chromebook with their own stylus, start writing. While the kid writes with their stylus, they pick it up, they can go to the next Chromebook and just start using it. So we were trying to like make sure that you were getting an equivalent or better experience with this product.
Yeah, and just like that seamless integration, and this is the thing we love. This kind of Chrome OS at its core is the same on this device, on that device, on that device. So then you can have a standard like USI and a pen like this, where you can have that kind of seamless or automatic pairing between devices. And it's really cool. I mean, it's such a fantastic design, first and foremost, but then like how you all have thought through this stuff. It's taking something as simple, quote, air quotes, simple, as a pen, and thinking through all of these different use cases. You mentioned a little bit about like packaging and sustainability. I know that's something, some of the work we've done with Logitech, you all have talked about this, especially if you're sending out a bunch of these to a school, right? You need to think about that packaging. So what sort of effort have you all put into that, or is that something you all are thinking about?
Yeah, so in this case, we sort of realized that people, these are getting bought not in one, single packs like we would in a retail environment. So we sort of said, all right, how do we make these sort of bulk sort of shippable and yet have the benefits of an individual packaging? So we came up with a sort of simple recyclable sort of bag, in which the individual product lives. And it was little details, like we sort of made sure there was a hang tab on it in case schools were sort of hanging this, right? It's resealable. So if once the person who's deploying it gets it out, needs to note whatever they need to note, they can put it back in that bag and send that out. Little details like the serial number for the product is up front in the packaging, right there in a scannable form in case they're doing asset management with this, where they don't need to take it out, note the serial number on the product. They can just do it directly from there. And so that was I think the baseline from a packaging and deployment standpoint. And then, when we were thinking about sustainability, part of that was how do we sort of make the longevity of this really solid, right? So, we are using pretty high quality materials. We're using recycled aluminum. The tip itself, which is becomes a wearable component. This was another one of those amazing rabbit holes, which turned out to be great because we sort of realized that in schools, the standard tips that we saw previously, they all come with a tool that you need to use to sort of take that tip out. And we realized that ultimately, schools might end up with 5, how many ever they get, all these little tools that either get lost or it becomes hard. So we sort of spent the time figuring out how we could make this tip be replaceable with standard tools like a needle nose plier or a standard plier, but still be firm enough that a child can't just pull it out. So something that changed in development, and I don't know how clear it can be seen, we have a vertical wall on the tip where it's large enough that a little plier can grip it, but not large enough that you can just use your fingers. So it was little things in those details that the tip will manage. And similarly, from a robustness standpoint, we made sure that this is mil spec in terms of drop resistance. And then even did made sure that it was juice box tested. We drop juice to see that this can be wiped and cleaned and
because that's going to happen.
Exactly. It's
going to roll across the table into some spilled juice or whatever.
Yep, yeah. Exactly. So we did those tests. I believe we have artificial saliva, which is weird as a thing to think about. That we sort of test, we have those things and we wanted to make sure this can live in the world.
You mentioned this a little bit a second ago. But you mentioned kind of working with Google on this. Obviously, you all have had to work with them, I'm sure, for all of the, works with Chromebook certification. But for a product like this, especially as you kind of said, developing it through the pandemic or during the pandemic, what is that partnership like for you all? Are you all working with their team? Are they kind of giving you all feedback, or are you all going to them and saying, hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think about this? What is that partnership like?
I think it's a mix. It's a mix. And usually, in this case, right, it was even getting started in that sense of USI is the standard to rally behind, right? Down to that degree of sort of experience of saying, this is the one that they're saying is going to be the primary for touch experiences. Getting advice on what that interaction with Chrome OS looks like. How do we make sure that it's natively enabled? What are some of the core experiences that we want to hit? Getting their feedback on, deployment in schools. Because Google has this experience, or they've been living this world for so long. And have seen that scale. So for us, it was making sure that we could do that all the way through till making sure as we were developing this that the experience was what could pass the Works with Chromebook certification for the stylus, making sure that we were meeting those requirements and seeing where we needed to go above and beyond because of the classroom scenario. Like you said, the buttons versus no buttons. And having those discussions saying, yeah, we're, this is what we believe in. Is this, how does this sound, and work through that with them.
It's cool. We love talking with, some of our manufacturers that we work with and hearing, how plugged in Google is on some of these devices that come out. And so that's cool to hear, that there is that kind of collaboration as you're developing a product like this. Is this this is only available through education channels, correct? If somebody's listening to this and they're like, this sounds awesome, I want to just go buy this to have. This is the USI pen that I want. from what I understand, can they do that, or can they not do that?
At this point, we have enabled this in the education channels in the US and in select markets, and we are looking at other regions and consumer channels. And so as and when it's ready to go, and we have been hearing folks who are like, "I wish we had this now," and we're like, "Yep, all right, this is great feedback. We want to make sure that we can enable this." So right now, it's only education channels, but we're looking at seeing how we can expand that out.
Yeah, and you mentioned this just a moment ago, but maybe we can expand on it a little bit. Deployment. Whenever obviously school districts are looking to purchase for the next school year or whatever, they're obviously going through certain channels to make sure that they're getting kind of bundled pricing and that sort of thing. They can equip their entire school district with Chromebooks. I'm assuming the same process would work for something like this, a peripheral. Or what does it, what I'm getting at here is if there's a IT admin or someone in leadership at a school district who's like, this sounds really great, we need to, and maybe I'm asking a really dumb question and anybody who's in this situation would know the answer, but again, I'm educating myself along with maybe some of our listeners here. So what is that process like?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's wherever our standard education resellers. This product is deployed as I said, in the US in those select markets, so that a school can go, work with them and get this in the way that they would get any other one of our peripherals, including, replacement tips. We've got an accessory. It's a pen loop, so that if schools, regardless of Chromebook, you can sort of save this product and sort of store it right next to your stylus. So, as an example,
yes.
there, sort of pushes through.
Very cool.
Again, so we've made that as an optional accessory, and so all of that, should be available. And as I mentioned earlier, right, in the deployment piece, we wanted to make sure that little things, if we could help, right, like so the serial number being visible on the individual package as you're rolling them out for asset management, or even at the end of the term. When you're collecting these pens back, we wanted to make sure that if it sat in a desk for, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, it would be fine. Like even if it was completely dead, you come back after a few months of holidays and you find the pen, you plug it in and charge it, it will still work. So it was like little things that we wanted to make sure along the journey that we thought through, and those are just some examples.
Yeah, and obviously we'll work with we'll work with you all to make sure to include any information that we need to in the show notes for those that are listening that maybe are interested. It looks like we've got an email here. So educationus@logitech.com. So there you go. You can just email if you're interested. Get a quote. I love it. So obviously the LogiPen has been a big effort for you all. What sort of other products in the Works with Chromebook lineup are out there for educators to maybe think about if they're thinking, hey, I need something maybe for myself as an educator for my desk setup or whatever, but also maybe some other products for the classroom.
Yeah, so we've across the entire Logitech suite, whether it's in the audio category, the video, and the input, we've got products that will go across the board. So starting from headsets, we've got headsets that are certified, standalone microphones, which certain teachers may use to record content, or even have in the classroom for for kids to do projects around. Our webcam solutions, we've got a suite of them, all the way from some of our simplest ones to higher quality 1080p ones that teachers might need to do to showcase things. In our keyboards and mice inputs, as I mentioned, and you pointed out, we've got dedicated keyboards that are, have some of the Chrome OS layout experiences like the K580. But then we also have sort of standard multi operating system keyboards, and we even have certain game controllers that are certified for scenarios where a kid might need an alternative input or etc. So literally across the product lines, we've got things that are specific for them, and we'll our teams, our sales teams and the channels will be we'll have that information to share out. But think about a category that we're in, and we'll have something that is certified and works really well, and meets all the standards for the Chrome OS operating systems.
I'm personally a big fan of the MX Master mouse. If anyone out there wants a fantastic mouse, I highly recommend it. Yeah. So one other quick thing I was thinking about, and I meant to ask this earlier when we were talking about the LogiPen, but you were talking about some of this like testing process and some of the things that you all are doing. Obviously, just from a classroom perspective, making sure that it's going to work. But then, what about from kind of a Chrome OS perspective? Are there? Because I imagine there are a handful of very popular education apps that these kids are using, or web apps or whatever. What sort of testing did you all do there to make sure that this pen and this input device, that, as you said, we just need it to work and we need it to maybe add a little extra onto the experience? What sort of development did you all do there?
Yeah, great question. So I think it was, at the, again, the advantage of, this is the power that Google's brought to this world, is at the Chrome OS level, right? The USI stylus just works even at that level. So in fact, one of the funny things that we'd seen that was tertiary at the beginning, but we realized became a core part, was kids were just using the stylus as a pointing experience. It was because it was so much more precise, so much easier for them to point at, and that's what Chrome OS allows you to do that really magically, right? Like I can take my stylus and go, all right, open this app in sort of the standard notebook mode, as opposed to the drawing scenario where they'll sort of leave that open, start using that. So first and foremost, it was making sure that across the different OEMs, across the different manufacturers, we had like jigs and rigs to make sure that lines were getting written, we were doing it consistently, and we're able to sort of generate that experience consistently across the different Chromebooks. And then, like you said, at the app level, we sort of realized that certain features, so the product has 4,096 levels of pressure sensitivity, but not all apps make use of that. So we needed to make sure that we were testing with apps that had that functionality to make sure that that was working, or even scenarios where palm rejection we saw was like a three-way interaction between the operating system, the stylus, as well as the app. So it wasn't just hey, the pen has palm rejection built in. It's actually three ways. So, making sure that you could, in the apps that support that feature, work through and make sure that that works correctly, that we're reporting things correctly through to the USI, using the USI spec. So those were some examples. And, we had literally in once the product was further along in the development, we gave this to kids for multiple weeks, a full, 35 to 40 kids, and said, great, now use this in your context, and come back and tell us what worked, what didn't work, what apps you were using, what scenarios you were using. This is where we learned that they were like, no apps, just pointing. And we were like, wait, let's double click on that.
Like sometimes it's just the most basic things that we want to get done.
Yeah, and
don't overcomplicate it.
And they loved the fact that this was so comfortable to hold. Like it became like a mini wand, where they were sort of like, oh yeah, I have my touchscreen Chromebook. I'm going to use my keyboard, my trackpad, but then for quickly navigating or quickly moving, let's use the pen.
Yeah, and the size is interesting too, because a regular pen like I have here, is a little bit thicker. We sometimes see these Chromebook USI pens that are a little thinner, or even devices that have built-in stylus, which I know a lot of education devices don't have that. But from the consumer side, we see that a lot of these little small pens that you have. I would imagine a kid trying to use this or keep up with a device. I'm sure the size was something that you all thought about too, to make sure that it fit well in the hand, but then was also easy to find. Wasn't going to slip it down into a little crevice over here or whatever.
I mean, you're hitting on it in exactly that way. It was like, as I said, we gave like multiple 3D printed prototypes before there was even the USI part. Literally 3D printed prototypes that could take a pen nib or a pencil lead, and told them, okay, go write with this to figure out, like, we tried flats, we tried round shapes, we tried all the different shapes, different weighted prototypes, even before we got into technology development of just like what is a comfortable experience across the different age groups. And yeah, how do we make it so that they can use it for long stretches of time without it feeling, too heavy, too sort of weighted, or it's not comfortable after that. So we had like the 1 minute test, the use this for like, over the course of your day. Some people said they used it for 2 to 4 hours, and they were like, yeah, it was still comfortable. And if there were parts, so one of the things was like, at one point in the iteration, we had this grip go only sort of lower. And we realized that there were people who were using it all the way back. So we extended that grip further back to make sure that, yeah, for folks who are using it back there, it can be soft and comfortable as they do this. And then, like you said, finding stuff in a bag, like we've lived this. It's like it's a black hole that you're like, why did I do this? Where is this? So, we decided that you go the pen loop strategy. If like for folks who want that, they can get that. But if you don't, just drop it in your pencil box or pencil case or whatnot. And the bright color will sort of be easy to find. Yeah, honestly, like it was a pretty fun development. And then even, simple things like kids do these things. How do we make it so that it can last that?
The weight of it. Yeah. The weight of the spin, right? The fidgeting with it. Yeah. It's a great product, and yeah, kudos to your team, and obviously you're passionate about it, and it's just awesome to see, a company like Logitech or just peripheral companies in general that are spending time thinking about this stuff for Chromebooks. It's still obviously there are so many Chromebooks in schools now, and the iPad experiment of giving kids a slab of glass didn't work out, and we're happy to see that there are so many kids using Chrome OS and using all of these excellent peripherals that you all have to offer, and we're just super excited about this partnership and this giveaway and being able to give 30 Chrome packs away. I'm still just amazed by that. I cannot wait. I want photos whenever they receive them. I want like, I'm so excited to do this. And the kind of whole idea whenever we first started talking with Logitech about this partnership was, you all really honestly having all of the tools to enhance the Chromebook experience. As we kind of as I talked about right up front, the Chromebook is the hub, right? It's the central core piece, but now we can have a better webcam. We can have, a better pen. We can have the better keyboard. We can have all of these things that kind of take that Chromebook to the next level and hopefully take the learning experience to the next level and make that student more successful. And it's awesome that you all are putting this amount of thought and detail into, this pen and the work that you all are doing. So just kudos.
Yeah,
Great
thank
work.
you. And hopefully we're just getting started. Like that's our hope is that we want to take a humble approach to this and really try and tackle the problems in an authentic way, where it's like we're actually solving the underlying issues, not just saying like, here's something and go use this. So we're hopeful that this product is received and it does what what we're hoping it does, and keep going. I think for us it's a core part of now what we're doing. As I said, we've got a whole team behind this that is looking at this, and every day we're looking at these problems and figuring out how we can make it better, or in some ways less painful, and how can we enhance it, like you said, the Chromebook being that hub, and how do we enhance those experiences where it's relevant and really make the child and the teacher and the educator focus on the content, focus on the learning, and our stuff in some ways gets out of the way and becomes an extension to them.
It's let's remove some of these extra barriers that we have for teaching. Let's let educators get down to what they're best at, right? And it's funny, we have education technology so wrapped up in education now that these educators are being forced to some degree to have to figure out this stuff and have to figure out peripherals and have to figure out okay, well, how can my student have a stylus that works? And it just works, and it works on every device. And obviously Chrome OS does a great job of that, but having a plethora of options out there for folks is just fantastic. So yeah, just keep up the good work. I can't wait to see the next iteration of this pen. This one's so good. Like, what's the next one gonna look like?
Awesome. So, we'll be excited to share that with you whenever that comes. It'll be.
This has been excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This is an awesome series. I'm learning something. I hope that all of our viewers and listeners are learning something too. And yeah, your passion for this product is contagious. I'm really appreciative of the work that you all have put into this. So great work, and thanks for taking the time.
Having us again. We're grateful to just be able to share how we've been thinking about stuff. So thank you.
Love it. All right, thanks. We'll catch up soon.
Cheers.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this episode of the Chromecast. If you liked this video, make sure to give us a thumbs up, head down there, hit subscribe, and click the notification bell icon if you want to get alerted when we put out future episodes. That's it for this one. We'll catch you in the next one. See ya.